finally here, the 2013 Texas Realtor Hill visits, and your role, speaking with one voice for Texas real estate, is critically important.
Good morning, my fellow Texas Realtors. I'm Shad Bogany, the 2013 Chairman of the Texas Association of REALTORs. It's my honor to welcome you all to the 2013 Texas Realtors Hill Visits and Barbecue. More than that, I'd like to personally thank you for coming to the Capitol today. Your attendance is a critical part of our legislative advocacy program. Although we won't have an official count for a few days, there should be more than 2,000 Texas Realtors at the Capitol today. That's about 2.5% of our membership. If this is your first time coming to a legislative Hill visit, you may feel a little bit lost, maybe overwhelmed. That will pass very quickly. Just follow the lead of your team captain and enjoy your day. You may also feel that your efforts aren't making a difference, but nothing could be farther than the truth. Our government affairs staff can still talk until they're blue in the face, but your words will always mean more. The bottom line is that the legislators want to hear from the people who elected them, and that's you. Even those lawmakers who are not here today or don't see you will feel our presence because of the sheer numbers of Texas Realtors on the Capitol grounds. Believe me, word gets around. We look forward to seeing you shortly at the Capitol at the TAR headquarters for our open house and barbecue. Let's storm the Capitol.
Hi, I'm Harry Gibbs, 2013 Chairman of the Texas Association of REALTORs Public Policy Committee. The Texas Association of REALTORs reviews every single bill filed during a legislative session, and there are lots of them. This year, in fact, there have been about 6,000 bills filed. The association has identified nearly 2,000 of them that in some way affect the real estate industry, private property owners, or the way we do business. Our staff then comes up with a recommendation and passes it to the legislative management team, a group of experienced, politically involved Texas Realtors who make decisions about the association's legislative agenda. Here are a few of the issues we're following.
You should know by now that the 83rd Texas Legislature is in full swing. Laws adopted this year will affect our industry, our clients, and consumers, and the way we make a living for years to come. So far this year, water planning has been a hot topic at the state capitol, and it's the Texas Association of REALTORs' top legislative priority for this session. Not only did Texas experience a single-year drought of record in 2011, much of the state remains mired in extreme drought. Amplifying the problem is the state's growing population, which is expected to increase 82% by 2060 to 46.3 million people. According to the Texas Water Development Board, we do not have enough existing water supplies to meet the demands of all those Texans during times of drought. In fact, if we fail to implement our state water plan, by 2060, almost half of all Texans, that's nearly 23 million people, will lack a sufficient water supply during severe drought conditions. So how do we meet the water needs of our current and future population? Well, any solution begins with a plan, and we've got one. It's called the State Water Plan. The Texas State Water Plan is a nationally recognized approach to drought preparedness and meeting water needs. But without state-assisted financing, local government entities, like cities or counties, can't implement the projects outlined in the plan. And if we don't implement those projects, the plan is worthless. There have been a number of bills filed that seek to fund the state water plan, and they all have one thing in common: the use of the Economic Stabilization Fund, more commonly called the Rainy Day Fund. State Representative Alan Ritter, who chairs the House Committee on Natural Resources, and Senator Troy Frazier, chairman of the Senate Natural Resources Committee, have taken the lead on passing legislation to meet the state's long-term water needs. Each of these lawmakers has filed bills that call for the creation of State Water Implementation Funds for Texas, or SWIFT, a dedicated fund that local entities would use to implement projects outlined in the state water plan. Chairman Frazier and Ritter have also filed bills that seek to monetize the SWIFT with a one-time $2 billion cash infusion from the Rainy Day Fund. According to experts, this one-time infusion, coupled with the Texas Water Development Board's $6 billion in bonding authority, is enough money to fully implement the 50-year state water plan, protecting and ensuring clean, reliable water sources for future generations. While securing a clean, reliable water supply is a public health issue, there's also an economic component. Without a steady supply of clean, affordable water, the state's growing population will quickly become a shrinking population, and businesses will either leave or simply not consider coming to Texas at all. That's not good for your business, and it's not good for Texas. And that's why the 83rd Texas Legislature must pass a long-term solution to fund water projects. When you're at the Capitol today, encourage your lawmaker to support House Bills 4 and 11 by State Representative Alan Ritter and Senate Bills 4 and 22 by Senator Troy Frazier. Critics of these bills argue that the rainy day fund could be used for other needs, like public education and transportation. While those important areas certainly deserve funding, using the rainy day fund, basically a savings account, to implement the state water plan makes sense because it's a one-time infusion to solve a long-term need. Plus, without water, we don't need roads or schools. So remember, we're supporting a one-time $2 billion investment to secure our state's water supply for years to come. The Texas Department of Transportation has major funding inadequacies. The problem is so bad that officials say TxDOT will be out of money for new projects by 2015. The agency needs an additional $4 billion, that's billion with a B, per year to construct new projects and maintain existing roads. The state's gas tax, which is the agency's major funding source, is inadequate for 3 reasons. It hasn't been increased or adjusted to inflation in over 20 years. Diverted funds, currently, nearly 28% of the state highway fund is appropriated or transferred for non-road use. That's about $1.1 billion per year, and vehicles are becoming more fuel efficient. Over the past 10 years, budget concerns and lawmakers' unwillingness to consider new taxes or fees have left the state with few options. The agency has to consider public-private partnerships, that is, toll roads, and has been forced to finance projects using bond debt. The bottom line is this: transportation projects are expensive, and one way or another, Texans will pay. Toll roads are up to 15 times more expensive per mile than tax-funded roads, and bond debt is not a sustainable way to fund ongoing expenses, much like you would try to avoid continuously using a credit card to pay your electric bill. Now, to continue that analogy, the credit card is maxed out. It has been widely reported that Texas leads the nation in road debt, with principal and interest totaling nearly $31 billion. In fact, TxDOT spends around $1.2 billion per year on interest payments alone, almost 10% of its annual budget. So what are the solutions? There are a lot of proposals working through the Capitol. Ending diversions from the gas tax, like funds sent to the DPS and DMV, is a hot topic, one that we fully support. But even that doesn't completely solve the problem. The reality is that, in all likelihood, there will have to be new revenue. When it comes to identifying that revenue, there are lots of ideas floating around, and some are better than others. Current proposals include dedicating the motor vehicle sales tax to road construction, a gradual increase to the annual vehicle registration fee, indexing the gas tax to inflation, and more. Numerous bills are making their way through various committees, and it's likely that provisions for many bills will end up in one omnibus bill. Your team leader for today's Hill visits will have the most current information about bills the association supports or opposes. However, one piece of legislation the association has identified as favorable is SJR 47 by Senator Kevin Eltife. This resolution calls for Texas voters to approve a temporary sales tax increase to pay down TxDOT bond debt. Whoa, you're saying we support a tax increase in Texas? Yes and no. If passed, this resolution would ask voters to approve a temporary half-cent increase to the state sales tax. That would be 50 cents on a $100 purchase. TAR supports giving Texas voters the ultimate say in how the state should pay down its debt. Plus, the revenue generated from the increase would be constitutionally dedicated to paying off TxDOT bond debt. The resolution is also authored such that the tax increase would expire when current TxDOT bond debt expires. If passed, this resolution would not only save Texas taxpayers billions of dollars, it would also free up over $1 billion a year in the TxDOT budget. When you visit with your lawmakers, tell them you support SJR 47 by Senator Kevin Eltife as a responsible way to reduce public debt. When it comes to home equity loans, Texans enjoy some of the most stringent consumer protections in the nation. These protections were a key factor in helping Texas avoid much of the foreclosure crisis that has swept the nation. One of the most important of these protections is the so-called 80% loan-to-value rule. Under this provision, the total of all mortgage debt may not exceed 80% of the appraised value of the house. In other states, these cash-out refinancings, up to 120% loan-to-value, became very common, turning homes into ATM machines. We are opposed to any efforts to water down these provisions. Tell your senator and representative that you're opposed to making any change to these homeowner protections and that you oppose HJR 118. Property tax loans are a necessary tool for commercial and residential property owners. However, the industry is plagued by undisclosed practices as well as deceptive and aggressive marketing tactics. Complicating the problem, a lucrative secondary market has emerged over the past few years. Some property tax lenders sell their notes to out-of-state investors and hedge funds, forcing property owners to pay interest and penalties to an unlicensed, unregulated entity. And while most banks or taxing entities do not want to foreclose, these investors will. And under current law, it can be an expedited, non-judicial foreclosure, taking just a few weeks to complete. Another problem involves the so-called evergreen clauses. Under these clauses, once a property owner agrees to let a lender pay his property taxes for 1 year, that lender may include a special provision in the agreement allowing for payment in subsequent years, even if the taxes are not late, forcing property owners to accept a loan, along with the accompanying interest and fees that they may not even need. Today at the Capitol, we're showing support for Senate Bill 247 by Senator John Corona and House Bill 3000 by Representative Doug Miller. These consumer protection bills enhance disclosure requirements, call for the licensing of secondary market, include provisions to end the evergreen clauses, and require the lien holders to use full judicial foreclosure should the loan go into default. Moving on to sales price disclosure, bills of this nature seem to come up every session. To be clear, we oppose any legislative effort to mandate the disclosure of sales price. Not only is it an invasion of privacy, it also creates different appraisal standards and could artificially inflate a property's appraised value. When appraisal districts get sales price information, they tend to ignore any other details, like sellers' concessions or buyers' willingness to pay above market value for a property. This is not only a problem in residential real estate. No one knows better than a commercial broker. Sales price is not necessarily an accurate indication of a property's value. State Representative Naomi Gonzalez from El Paso has filed a bill that requires a business owner to disclose sales price and other information prior to a property tax hearing. And if the owner fails to comply, they would lose their right to protest their property tax. Today, tell your lawmakers you're against the concept of mandatory sales price disclosure and you oppose HB 1830 by Naomi Gonzalez. For years, Texas Realtors have been leading the fight for meaningful reform to the property appraisal process. We believe that the appraisal process, while improving, still needs changes to make it transparent, fair, and equitable. Many complaints about the property tax system involve the perception of bias and lack of responsiveness on the part of the ARB and appraisal districts. This session, we're supporting two broad appraisal reform bills, which seek to improve the transparency and accountability of the Appraisal Review Board and to make the procedural requirements relating to protests and appeals more efficient, effective, and responsive. They are House Bill 585 by Representative Mike Villarreal and Senate Bill 1826 by Senator Kevin Eltife. Sometimes, repealing ineffective provisions is just as important as creating good ones. In 2009, we fought for and won a less expensive, less involved way for Texans to protest appraised values. We call it expedited arbitration. In theory, it was a good idea, but in practice, all it's done is reduce the quality of arbitration hearings. For that reason, we're also supporting HB 3193 by John Otto and Senate Bill 1663 by Eltife. The specifics of these bills are wholly contained within the broader appraisal reform bills, but having these standalone bills won't hurt as it adds a little insurance for this important provision. Information is power, and when it comes to proposing new tax rates, we believe a taxing entity should release simple and accurate information to its tax base. There are two identical bills, Senate Bill 1510 by Senator Chuy Hinojosa and House Bill 3112 by Representative Harvey Hildebrand, that we support. These bills seek to solve a very simple problem. Tax notifications have become too cumbersome to accomplish their purpose, conveying tax information. These truth in taxation bills simplify the tax notice that cities and counties are required to provide to the public by listing three rates: the proposed tax rate, the preceding year's tax rate, and the effective tax rate. Additionally, the new notice instructs a property owner how to calculate the taxes on the owner's property for each rate, the rollback rate if necessary, and information on related public hearings. Windstorm insurance is a complicated game in Texas. The current solution involves the Texas Windstorm Insurance Agency, or TWIA, a quasi-governmental agency that serves as the insurer of last resort for commercial and residential properties in 14 coastal counties. While TWIA has about $3.6 billion in claims-paying resources, the agency could face losses of $14.2 billion from one Category 4 hurricane striking an economically critical area. So what happens if we face such a storm? Well, truthfully, no one knows. State law does not provide any backstop for TWIA, so in all likelihood, lawmakers would have to convene and impose a surcharge on all home and auto policyholders statewide. Due to the threat of that surcharge and the fact that such an event would affect everything from international trade to oil and gas production to the price of a gallon of milk, we believe that coastal property owners should not bear the entire financial burden associated with insuring against these events. Similar to proposals for transportation funding, there are numerous windstorm insurance bills going through different committees. No matter how those bills finally appear, the Texas Association of REALTORs believes all property owners in Texas should have access to risk-related property insurance. We also believe any solution should include better underwriting rules, fair rates, liability limits, and more stable funding strategies, as well as incorporating the private insurance market in some capacity. For more information on these issues, as well as a summary of our areas of interest, refer to your 2013 Hill Visits pamphlet. Not only will you find a summary of our priority issues, you'll also find a synopsis of the other issues that affect our industry and private property rights, like increased taxes targeting real estate professionals and consumers, HOA reform, and the expansion of gaming. Of course, we're always on the lookout for any other proposed legislation that could affect the way you do business. One final note about this booklet. Things change quickly at the Texas Capitol, and sometimes that means printed materials go out of date. Your Hill Visits team leader will have the latest information, which may be different from what's in the printed material. That about wraps up the review of our issues, so here are some important tips to help you make the most of your time at the Capitol.
Hi, I'm Trey Bates, Chairman of the 2013 Texas REALTORS Political Affairs Committee. On behalf of the Texas Association of REALTORS, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to the 2013 Texas REALTORS Hill Visits. To help the day go a little smoother, here are some tips. Our staff at TAR has set appointments with all 181 legislators. It's very important to stick to the schedule. Too early or too late is no good. Be polite and have a helpful approach with legislators and staff. Stick to the topics and talking points TAR has given you. Never challenge the legislator or staff into a combative discussion. If there's a difference of opinion, politely agree to disagree. Never discuss non-realtor issues at a realtor-related meeting. Another thing I'd like to point out, this is a very busy time for legislators, and you may be meeting with someone on their staff instead. This is okay. Lawmakers rely heavily on their staff to keep them up to date. Your time will likely be short, so don't feel the need to mention every single issue in your handbook. Just let your contact team leader take control and follow along. Finally, in your pamphlet, you'll find an insert called the Hill Visits Reporting Form. Please take time to complete this important information and return to someone on the TAR staff. Thanks for coming to the Hill Visits. You're making a big difference today, and I look forward to seeing you all there.
Hi, I'm Brandon Alderetti, and I'm the Governmental Affairs Communications Manager for the Texas Association of REALTORS. I need all brokers to pay close attention to this message. Are you interested in smarter, more involved agents? Would you also be interested in winning an iPad mini? Then sign up for the Broker Involvement Program at today's Hill Visits. The Broker Involvement Program is an NAR initiative designed to increase responses to calls for action. The program is based on one simple fact. Your agents are more likely to open a message from you than they are from TAR or NAR. And that fits hand in hand with what we're doing here today. Let me explain how. When this association supports or opposes legislation, we begin our testimony with, on behalf of the nearly 80,000 Texas realtors. Now that's a lot of realtors, and it catches lawmakers' attention, but not as much as having thousands of you here today or flooding their email inboxes with messages from a call for action. That's grassroots advocacy, and it matters. Now, on to the iPad mini. All you need to do is fill out this brochure and drop it in a designated box at today's barbecue lunch. You can also sign up at texasrealtors.com/BIP. Once you sign up and NAR or TAR issue a call for action, your agents will receive a notification and a request to respond directly from you, without you having to do a thing. It's a great way to build a more informed brokerage, and it's a great way to keep your agents involved. And hey, winning an iPad mini is pretty cool too.
Hi, I'm Daniel Gonzalez, Legislative Director for the Texas Association of REALTORS.
And I'm Chelsea Thomas, your Governmental Affairs Representative. We're excited you're here and we want you to enjoy yourself today.
Yeah, and to that end, here are some tips to save you some time and make your day more pleasant. First, security checkpoints are installed at every entrance to the Capitol. All visitors must pass through a checkpoint. Concealed handgun license holders have their own fast access line, so if you bring your CHL, you can skip the metal detectors.
You may also want to avoid wearing metallic jewelry or carrying a lot of electronic devices to the Capitol. There are 4 entrances to the Capitol: north, south, east, and west sides. Buses drop off on the east side of the building, so if you see a line forming, head to one of the other entrances. They all lead to the same place.
And as you're coming over to the Texas Association of REALTORS building for your barbecue lunch, you may see a large line forming. It may even stretch down the street. Don't be intimidated. Past experience tells us that the line moves very quickly.
Most importantly, be sure to fill out your Hill Visits reporting form and return it to anyone on the TAR staff. Completing this form is one of the most critical parts of the day. It lets us know where each legislator stands on our issues.
And that leads me to an important point. Things move very quickly at the Texas Capitol, and sometimes print materials, like what you're holding in your hand, can get outdated. Please listen to your Hill Visit team leader. They have been briefed on the latest developments.
Thank you so much for coming. Now go enjoy the day, have a great time, and remember that what you're doing has a tremendous impact.
When you don't invest in TreePack and can't protect your business, you feel unhappy. When you feel unhappy, you go to happy hour. When you go to happy hour, you're up for anything. When you're up for anything, you head to the Texas Capitol alone. And when you go to the Texas Capitol alone, you get doors slammed in your face. Don't get doors slammed in your face. Take the power of TreePack with you.